ready, and action! Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. Time for another brilliant lecture from your professor here at Sisseton, Wahpeton College in beautiful, lovely, bustling, crowded downtown Agency Village, South Dakota at Sisseton, Wahpeton College. Without any further ado, here's the man, the myth, the legend, Professor Victor Singingeagle. Yay! Did I just mispronounce my own name? Oh well, never mind. We got to get busy. I don't have time to start rehearsing and re-recording this. We got to get into what we got to talk about today. Today I'm going to bother you with this. Daniel Heath Justice. Look at all my bookmarks. And why Indigenous Literatures Matter. I keep saying Indigenous Lives Matter from the BLM movement, but it's Indigenous Literatures Matter. If we look at our book, there is a chapter by Daniel Heath Justice called Learning to Be Human. And we need to, it says here, we need a quick background of this author from Wikipedia. I'm going to see if I can use my own brain as from Wikipedia. If I remember right, Daniel Heath Justice is a Cherokee, and he teaches up in Washington State. Never mind, let's just use Wikipedia. My poor old dilapidated brain ain't working the way it used to. All right, we're going to go to Wikipedia, Mexican flag history. We don't want that right now. We want Daniel Heath Justice. Daniel Heath Justice. American Canadian professor. There he is. He's at Harvard now? I don't believe it. Click on it. I like Wikipedia because it gives me the quick answer. Now, keep in mind that professors oftentimes will jump on you if you get stuff off of Wikipedia. However, if you're just doing a quick answer session, you want quick information, boom, Wikipedia. If you want more in-depth, I advise that you actually go to a more academic leaning site. So let's look at this. Says here, he's an American-born Canadian, academic citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I was right. Professor of First Nations and Indigenous Studies at the University of British Columbia. I thought he was at UBC. I was close. He also got a, wow, look at him, MA and PhD from University of Nebraska in Lincoln, right down south of us. Began his career at the University of Toronto, where he taught English, worked in association with the Aboriginal Studies program. Now, I can go on and on and on, but you can look all this stuff up yourself. Wow, he's an officer of the Order of Canada. Ooh, I should get one of those myself. Never mind. Look at all this stuff he did. But anyway, this is what we need to know, that he is up there. There's a picture of him. Let's see if we can make him bigger. Ta-da! He might be two-spirited, but I'm not sure. We don't need to know all that right now. We just want to know who he is really quick. In his book, on page 33, he's talking about the importance of storytelling. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. Page 33. Oh, I went too far. 33. Now, again, remembering that we do not like professors who stand in front of the class and read to students. However, I can give you a little bit of excerpt reading, okay? Here we go. How do we learn to be human? This is chapter 1, page 33. Although we are born into human bodies, it's our teachings and our stories that make us human. Whatever our particular gifts or limitations, no matter how our specific biology influences our decisions and behaviors, our humanity is far greater than the simple consequence of being born into the species Homo sapiens. The exchange of DNA is as much an accident of history as it is an act of will and culture and kinship, travel, different, though often parallel currents. Our biology is only a very small part of our humanity. The rest is a process of becoming. I like that. Now, so He says on page 34, metaphors are not enough. What's that all about? Let's look at it together. It says here on page 34, we tend to like our metaphors, our analogies, weathered old chestnuts, quick and easy examples, especially for this elemental of questions in the old nature versus nurture debate. We might think of nature being the clay and nurture, the act of sculpting. The medium of clay determines what can be achieved, but it's the care or negligence of the sculptor that has the greater influence. Of course, this presumes that the clay itself has no further role to play than to simply be. And it also ignores the best ways that moisture, light, temperature, and other environmental conditions can affect the process, the final result. So in the end, this hackneyed metaphor, like most, falls short. Metaphors alone can't encompass what it is to be human, nor can lived experience. For that, we need stories. Now, this is the cool thing about being native. All of us here, we love, oftentimes Sherman Alexie once wrote that you're not a real Indian unless there's a point in your life where you wish you weren't an Indian. Well, in this case, this is the time that we can be proud of being Indians. One of the things it is our stories and our storytelling. If we turn to page 36, he expands by using the example of Louise Erdrich. All right, let's do it. Page 36, and I'm starting to mess around too much. All right, there it is. Louise Erdrich, where are you? I should have highlighted it. I hate to write in books. Books, why? Oh, here it is. It says here, I'm going to start on page 35 and roll over to 36. Says here, this is Ojibwe writer Louise Erdrich, who I often write to, but she never writes me back. But we did meet a couple of times. Never mind. Louise Erdrich, in the book that she wrote called Books and Islands in Ojibwe Country. She's talking about traveling through northern Minnesota to the Great Lakes region of southern Ontario on a kind of memory quest, mapping Ojibwe, writing through the land, language, and history of her people. She notes that her own career is both a personal calling and a natural extension of cultural values, gesturing even to one possible origin of the word Ojibwe itself. The meaning I like best, is what she writes, is of course Ojibwe from the verb Ojibige, which means to write. Ojibwe people were great writers. By the way, we Potawatomi call the Ojibwe keepers of the word. And our older brothers, they're the oldest. There's three brothers, Ottawa, Chippewa, and Potawatomi. The oldest is Chippewa or Ojibwe. That's the oldest brother, keeper of the word. Ojibwe or Ottawa, those guys, we call them keepers of the deed. So we got keepers of the word, keepers of the deed. So what are Potawatomi? Keepers of the fire. There's a bunch of stories about that, but the one I like best as an old grumpy old professor is this idea of the connection, the faith, the connects word and deed, the inspiration that moves people from word of blah, 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 or writing to the act of actually doing something about it. That's the Potawatomi. So the three brothers, Chippewa, Ottawa, Potawatomi. Never mind, let's get back to the book itself. Page 36, I went off on a fun tangent. All right, so Erdrich writes books. Why? And offers different answers each time. At the book's end, she has returned to home in Minnesota where she reflects on a question she's pondered since childhood. If stranded alone on a desert island with just one book, which book would you want it to be? It's an anxiety-producing question for any book lover, that'd be me, and other nerds who love books. Where was I? Let alone a writer and bookstore owner, that's right. Louise Erdrich owns Birch Bark Books. I think that's in where Prince is from. Minneapolis, if I remember right. Birch Bark. Can I say that? Birch Bark Books. There, I can talk. Let me see. So she is a bookstore owner and a writer. Her answer is simple and brilliant. A dictionary is what she would prefer to have. So if she was stranded on a desert island with nothing but one book, she says she'd like to have a dictionary. I like that. The source of endless story possibilities. And then she offers the following thoughts, almost a departing blessing. Now I got to change the page. Here we go. Departing blessing says, books? Why? So I can talk to other humans without having to meet them. Fear of boredom, so that I will never be alone. Ooh, I like that. All right, and then we have the Cherokee origin of disease, which is on page 39, also related to this idea of the importance of stories. Page 39, I'm going to read a little bit of it. Cherokee origin of disease. Oh, here it is. The only thing that really seems to be unique about humans as a species is our capacity for willful, self-deluding destruction. We're really good at killing, maiming, and spoiling things, and doing it with pleasure. Oh, well, he's got a point, Daniel Heath Justice. And we always have been. Indigenous traditions are well stocked with warnings against human destructiveness and lessons for our more respectful coexistence with other than human relatives. In Cherokee tradition, for example, it's humanity's mindless cruelty that leads to the presence of disease and suffering in the world. As a result of widespread slaughter of our beast kin, the chiefs of various animal and bird people cursed us with every imaginable disease and debilitating ailment. It's only due to the generosity of the plant peoples that we've managed to survive to this point, as they each provided a cure to one of the animal-inflicted maladies. I'll tell you a story about that later. I might have it. No, I don't have it. I should actually do an illustration for it and post it on e-learning for everybody. So that's that. Now, if we're jumping on down to more importance of stories, remember, I'm going to tell you about the soft heads story, which is related to the Cherokee. So let that simmer on the side burner or the back burner on our stove as we're cooking up stuff, cooking up knowledge. And we're going to jump to this first. We'll get back to that other pot over there. The importance of stories. This is from Leslie Marmon Silko, my fellow ADHD sufferer. She is from the Laguna Pueblo down there. And Leslie Silko, I didn't bring her book. I should have, and quoted from it. It's a book called Ceremony. And the book Ceremony, those of us who have done military time, we know that the book itself has become a ceremony for those of us who are veterans. And we come back to the States with PTSD. And that's what is actually being dramatized in the book Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko. And Silko in this book has a character named Tayo. He has come back from World War II. He was in the Pacific, fighting in the Pacific theater there against the Japanese. And he's come back to the States, and he's just sick as can be. I mean, he's barfing all the time. He can't think. He's all PTSD. And he has to go through healing ceremonies. And the book takes us through that. And in one section of the book, which I can't read right now because I forgot to bring it like a bonehead, he's speaking to an elder, a healer, and the healer tells him, well, there are evil and good stories. And there's a villain in the book. His name is Emo. He was another veteran. They served together in the military, but Emo has taken the negative route. He enjoyed all the killing. And he came back to the States, and he had a necklace of teeth that he had taken and yanked out of Japanese soldiers' mouths, and he made a necklace out of them, and he was always playing with him, and big, big bully kind of guy, and he'd always bully Taiyo, and he used to tell evil stories, or talking about in the book. Silko is saying that his stories, his accounts for what happened when he was fighting in the Pacific, his stories were gloating and talking about how he enjoyed his killing. He was always telling stories about it. He was telling stories about how he was messing around with Japanese comfort women or whatever, messing around with the girls in the islands and stuff. And Leslie Silko says those are the evil stories. That's kind of what this is about. And if you look on page 2, which I can't right now, I already explained this, I already explained that, but the good stories come from the elders and the healers, and Taiyo eventually he starts learning to listen, and he realizes that the stories have a healing power to them, and that's what we're going to stick with. I might bring it next time and quote from it, but like I said, forgot my book. Bad boy, bad teacher. All right. Importance of stories again, Daniel Heath Justice, page 42 and 43. Let's jump on over. 42 and 43. Yes, here it is. Little quote. It says here, one of the richest novels about indigenous kinship is Water Lily. I can't say it. Water Lily by the Yankton Sioux ethnologist Era Cara written in the first half of the 20th century and unpublished during her lifetime. It was drawn from her widely lived and professional experience, as well as extensive interviews with traditional Dakota community members, and offers a powerful account of Dakota lives and lifeways from their full experience on the edge of American settler colonialism. I'm going to jump down, yet for all these challenges, Water Lily remains a finely crafted novelistic study of the ways that kinship shapes identity, of how the context of our relationships, that's the stories, determine who we are, who we understand ourselves to be, and what our duties are as a result. Told through the birth, childhood, and maturing adulthood of the title character, Water Lily articulates in fiction what Deloria eloquently described elsewhere. The ultimate aim of Dakota life, stripped of all accessories, was quite simple. One must obey kinship rules. One must be a good relative. No Dakota has participated in that life will dispute that. In the last analysis of every other consideration was secondary: property, personal ambition, glory, good times, life itself. Without that aim, the constant struggle to attain it, the people no longer would be Dakotas in truth. They would be no longer human. To be a good Dakota, then, was to be humanized and civilized, and to be civilized was to keep the rules imposed by kinship for achieving civility, good manners, and a sense of responsibility toward every individual dealt with. To be human is to be a good relative, and in so doing, respectable and respectful and dignified. This is a very different mode of civilization than imposed by Euro-Western missionaries, militaries, teachers, policymakers. So that's enough of that. It's telling us that the stories also civilize us, and they give us indigenous didactics. There's a good word for us to know. Might show up on a quiz. What is indigenous didactics? Let's read it together. Indigenous didactics, stories that teach children and community members about proper behavior, ethnic, social norms, sometimes called cautionary tales. Keep that in mind. Now, I'm going to knock off here, and I'm going to tell the soft head story. I'm also going to tell you about etiology. We're going to talk about the Mexican flag. We're going to tell the story of a crow and octopus lady. So we're going to knock off here. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye. 20 minutes, stop!